We spent 30 years in cubicles, on job sites, on our feet, on call. We were the latchkey kids who let ourselves in after school, made our own dinner, and figured it out. Nobody handed us a roadmap. Nobody handed us a trophy just for showing up. And now, finally, Gen X is asking the one question that actually matters. Where do we exhale? Not where do we vacation? Not where do we send the kids? Where do we go when the grind is finally over? Here are the top 10 places Gen X is packing up and moving to. From the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. From mountain towns to quiet beaches. Number 10 starts somewhere a lot of people sleep on. Michigan. I know. You probably weren't expecting this one. And that's exactly why it's on the list. Gen X isn't retiring the way boomers did. We're not all chasing Florida. Some of us want space. Real space. The kind where you can see water without 500 people between you and the shoreline. Traverse City sits right on Lake Michigan. Turquoise water that looks like the Caribbean except it's fresh water and there's no humidity trying to end you. You can get a home here for under $400,000 in the surrounding areas. And you get 4 real seasons. The kind we grew up with. When fall actually looked like fall, when winter meant snow that stayed, when spring felt earned. The Upper Peninsula is even quieter. Land for almost nothing. No traffic. No noise. Just trees and water and the kind of silence most of us haven't heard since we were kids sitting on a dock somewhere, feet dangling over the edge. Tennessee gets it. No state income tax, which means they don't touch your pension or your 401k withdrawals. The cost of living runs about 10% below the national average. And the Great Smoky Mountains sit there like they've been waiting for you since 1978. The music alone. Nashville, Memphis. The blues clubs, the honky-tonks, the roots music that shaped half the cassettes we wore out in our parents' cars. If you grew up with vinyl and mixtapes and the radio as your best friend, Tennessee feels like coming home to a place you've never actually lived. You can still buy land here. Not pretend land. Actual acres where nobody bothers you. Small towns between Nashville and Knoxville where a couple $100,000 get you a house with a porch and a view that doesn't end at somebody else's fence. For Gen Zers who want music in their blood and mountains in their backyard, Tennessee opens the door and leaves it open. Ohio surprises people. And I get it. When you think retirement, Ohio isn't the postcard. But Gen X is moving here because the math actually works. Median homes under $250,000. That's not a typo. Retirement income taxed gently, or not at all, depending on the source. Gas is cheaper. Groceries are cheaper. A dinner out doesn't require a second mortgage. Columbus is growing fast, but it still feels like a big small town. Cleveland has Lake Erie world-class healthcare, and neighborhoods where people still sit on their front porches and wave when you walk by. Cincinnati has hills and river views and a skyline that catches you off guard. Ohio isn't flashy, but neither were we. We were raised to make things last. To fix things instead of throwing them away. To find value in what works, not what looks good in a brochure. Ohio lets you do exactly that. Stretch what you've saved, live with dignity, and keep more of what you earned. Connecticut is for the Gen Zers who want New England without the noise. Not Manhattan, not Boston. Just quiet colonial towns with stone walls older than any of us and harbors that look like they belong in a painting. The cost of living is higher here. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. Median homes around $420,000. But for some Gen Zers, retirement doesn't mean cheapest. It means quiet. It means leaves changing in October. It means being close to family in the Northeast without being on top of them. It means walking a main street where the buildings have been standing since the 1800s. Grabbing coffee from a shop that knows your name, and watching the seasons change in a way that still feels like the calendars we had in elementary school. The kind where October was always orange. Connecticut gives you that exhale. The deep, quiet kind. Arizona knows exactly what it's doing. Dry heat. The kind that's actually easier on your body, especially if your joints have opinions now that they didn't have at 22. sunsets that quite literally stop you mid-sentence, and more sky than you know what to do with. Prescott and the surrounding towns give you that high desert quiet at a cost that still makes sense. Median homes around $450,000 in Prescott proper, cheaper as you move out. You're at 5,300 feet, so the summers don't cook you the way Phoenix does. And you're 2 hours from the Grand Canyon, which, if you haven't seen it in person, is one of those things that reminds you how small your problems actually are. Gen X isn't retiring to golf courses and country clubs. We're retiring to space. To somewhere that looks and feels different from the conference rooms and commutes and fluorescent lighting we left behind. Arizona gives you that. Big sky, deep quiet, a complete reset. Virginia gives you both things at once, the mountains and the world. The Blue Ridge Parkway in October will absolutely break your heart in the best possible way. Richmond keeps you connected to restaurants, culture, people. And the state doesn't touch your Social Security. They don't tax it at all. Medicare Advantage plans here rank among the best in the country. That matters. When you've spent 30 years on your feet or at a desk or both, you think about healthcare differently than you did at 25. For Gen Xers who want history, real history, the kind you can walk through, plus seasons that show off, plus a pace that lets you breathe without disappearing entirely, Virginia holds the door open. The Shenandoah Valley alone is worth driving across the country for. And some of us are. South Carolina feels like a secret Gen X already figured out. Myrtle Beach costs nearly $100,000 less for a home than Charleston. The winters are mild. January highs in the upper 50s. The summers are long and slow. And there's something about that Spanish moss hanging from oak trees that makes you slow down whether you meant to or not. You can't rush under those trees. It's not allowed. Charleston gives you history and cobblestone and food that'll make you close your eyes when you eat it. Greenville gives you a smaller, hipper version with a waterfall running through downtown. And the coast. The whole coast. Gives you water that's actually warm enough to swim in. We spent decades rushing. Deadlines. Meetings. Traffic. South Carolina doesn't rush. It sits on the porch. It waves. It tells you to come on up and stay a while. North Carolina gives you options. Real options. Mountains on one side. The Blue Ridge, the Smokies, towns with one stoplight and a diner that's been open since 1962. Coast on the other side. The Outer Banks, wild and quiet and still mostly undeveloped. And the Research Triangle in the middle. Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill. Keeping things smart, keeping things connected. Median homes around $310,000. Cost of living almost 14% below the national average. And those small mountain towns, Boone, Brevard, Waynesville, they're filling up with Gen Zers who finally get to choose where they wake up. Not where the job is. Not where the commute makes sense. Where they actually want to be. Asheville keeps things interesting. Breweries, music, a downtown that feels alive without feeling overwhelming. The whole state feels like it was designed by someone who understood that life should be good and affordable. Texas doesn't need an introduction, but it deserves one anyway. No state income tax. Zero. Land that stretches farther than you can drive in a day. A cost of living that lets you keep more of what you earned. And more Gen Zers moving here every single year than almost anywhere else in the country. Gen X isn't settling in the middle of Austin or Dallas or Houston. We're finding the hill country. The space between the cities where the sky is genuinely big and the stars actually show up at night. Towns like Fredericksburg, Kerrville, Marble Falls. Places where you can buy a few acres, build something modest, and spend your mornings on the porch and your evenings watching the sun drop behind hills that don't end. San Antonio gives you culture and history and the Riverwalk. The hill country gives you quiet. And Texas as a whole gives you the freedom to be left alone. Something Gen X has wanted since we were kids with our own house key around our neck. You knew Florida would be number one. But probably not for the reasons you think. Gen X isn't retiring to theme parks and high-rise condos and early bird specials. We're finding the quiet Gulf Coast towns, the places the tourists haven't ruined yet. Dunedin, Cedar Key, Apalachicola. Towns where you can still hear the waves and nothing else at 7 p.m. No. State income tax. Warmth all year. And 318,000 people moved here from other states last year alone. The state added over 467,000 new residents total. So if you're thinking about it, you're not alone. You're part of a wave. But here's what actually matters. After 30 years of grinding, of early alarms and late nights and maybe next year vacations that kept getting pushed, Gen X finally gets to decide what a Tuesday morning looks like. Not what a Saturday looks like, a Tuesday. The most ordinary day of the week. And in Florida, on the Gulf Coast, on a quiet beach with coffee in your hand and no schedule anywhere in sight. A Tuesday can feel like something we earned. We were the generation that didn't get participation trophies. We got told to figure it out, and we did. We figured out how to survive layoffs and recessions, how to raise kids while working 2 jobs, how to keep going when nobody was clapping. And now, finally, we get to figure out something better, where we rest, where we exhale, where we finally choose ourselves. If this video spoke to you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Where are you planning to exhale? What state's on your list that I didn't mention? Let's go down memory lane together. We earned this conversation.